They were making a huge decision. No English, no money, no connections, nothing. I also have zero control over that situation. Zero. This life is for people who are brave. So I am the only one in my family with Colombia, in the saying, con este gallo. I'm the only one with this issue.
Welcome back to Doce, the podcast for immigrants by immigrants. I'm your host, Valen, and my guest today is Nicolas Fuentes, a Colombian-born engineer, data scientist, and public speaker whose story begins with a family taking risks and a kid growing up learning how to carry it. Born in Bogota and raised in the United States, Nick navigates life between cultures, expectations, and uncertainty, learning early that this life is for people who are brave. He went on to become the first in his family to graduate college in the US and building a career at the intersection of technology and clinical research. Nick is a TEDx speaker where his talk on difficult conversations explores the one thing technology still can't automate: human communication. At the heart of his work is a commitment to critical thinking, public speaking, and expanding access to opportunity. In this conversation, Nick opens up about his own immigration story and what it really takes to use your voice when silence would be easier. The title of your TED Talk is Difficult Conversations, the one thing you can't automate. Learning to have difficult conversations saved your life. That's a pretty strong claim. Can you take me back to that time?
The origin of the talk, which I'll spoil a little bit because I want people to see it.
Of course.
But I'll spoil a little bit. It actually came from a time in my life where I had to give a series of difficult conversations all in a very short period of time, like in a week. I needed to tell one of the biggest clients that we work with some really bad news about their projects. I needed to have a really hard conversation with my manager. I had gotten some information about a performance review that I didn't agree with. And he had a stance and I didn't agree. And then I was dating a girl at that time and it wasn't working out. So I had to break up with her all at the same time, all while going to school.
Isn't there a saying called when it rains, it pours?
It rains. No, literally. And bad and good things come in threes. So all of that combined, I got really stressed and really anxious. And I realized I really didn't know how to have any of these conversations. And it was just in a moment of just like, it was super late. I was going to school at the time as well. I was getting my master's degree. And I was up late one night doing a project and I was training this machine learning model the project was, I work in healthcare. So it was like a pharmaceutical bot. So it was like, it's pretty much, I was working with ChatGPT pretty much. So I was like, if ChatGPT was a pharmacist, what questions you could ask it and what medication you could take. So for example, my name's Nick. I'm a 28-year-old female. I'm obviously a female, 28-year-old male.
Identity crisis,
clearly. That's a difficult conversation. And I don't feel well and I'm currently diabetic. Can I take aspirin? So I was like training it to know what answers to give and what questions to ask. And in that, I was like, wait, the same way that I'm training this model is actually all I need to do to have these conversations with the people and the situations that I'm in. That's as much as I'll give because then the TED Talk obviously, but this is a long-winded way to answer your question about it saved my life because it opened up a perspective in my life that I don't fear having difficult conversations anymore.
At all?
No. I actually look forward to it.
Were you looking forward to this podcast?
Absolutely. I got a haircut for this podcast. So I'm really excited to do this podcast and I'm really excited to have a difficult conversation.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive. That's definitely a skill. I watched your TED Talk, of course, in preparation for this. And I encourage everybody to watch it. And without without spoiling, there was something that you mentioned about the importance of the stories that we tell ourselves. And in one of the things that you said, you know, if you say like, I can't do this because I'm just a girl or I'm just an immigrant. Like, what were some of the self-limiting beliefs that you had before? And were they ever tied to being an immigrant?
Yeah, 100%. And it's so funny you're asking me this right at the end of Hispanic Heritage Month, because I've had to share this story a lot. I think for me, growing up as a first generation immigrant, so I was born in Colombia, and I came with my family here very young. I was 2 years old, but my parents were immigrants as well, so we were just figuring it out all at the same time, all together. And I'm also a first generation college student, so I'm the first person in my family to go to college in the United States. And with that, I was figuring out a lot of things all at the same time on my own. And I realized very quickly that I was in a very different situation than the people around me. I didn't get financial aid. I didn't know anyone in the corporate space. Like, I didn't have an uncle or that I could just call and be like, hey, you're the CEO of this company. You mind getting me a job? So it was very tough. And there was a lot of growing up, there was a lot of imposter syndrome. Only Latino in this classroom. I'm the only Latino in this internship cohort. The only Latino in enter whatever scenario. I was literally the only Latino always in a lot of spaces. But my parents, I have a lot of the success and a lot of the accomplishments that I've been able to reach are thanks to my parents, because of the belief in myself and their belief in me. My dad specifically has this really funny and super Colombian saying. He's like, "Esta vida es para valientes." This and translated as this life is for people who are brave. And he would use that in all contexts. Funny, serious. If I was really upset or I failed an exam, he'd like, "Papito, esta vida es para valientes."
Wow. I've never heard that before, actually.
Yeah, and it stuck with me. Like, if I'm struggling with something and I'm like nervous for something, I'm like, "Esta vida es para valientes," and then go. And it's just like something that I've sort of trained my mind to say and to prep for. But, you know, fast forward to graduating college, I'm a first generation now college student, and now I'm in corporate America in a lot of circles where I'm literally the only Latino. And I had to understand very quickly, like, okay, there is a hierarchy here that I need to learn. There's a culture, there's a language. And
like corporate language?
Yes.
Corporate lingo?
Corporate lingo, yes. Like, let's take this offline. Hey, Valentina, I think we should revisit that and not do it, you know?
That was an interesting point that you brought up. Why don't we talk about this after the meeting?
So after having to learn that, there's this aspect of just, you know, you're not really exposed to Latinos that are in positions of quote unquote power. But I was very fortunate that during my time in college, I joined this program that it was just an 8-week program that the state of New Jersey was hosting. And it was for Latino scholars. And it was hosted by the Center of Hispanic Research and Development. And the whole focus of that program was taking college students to the headquarters of Fortune 500 companies. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. And so because of that program, for 8 weeks straight, I was visiting both like managers, senior directors, vice presidents, and they were all Latino. Gonzalez, Rodriguez, Jimenez. And I'm like, dude, these people look like me. They talk the same way I do. They eat the same foods as me. And that really opened up my eyes. I'm like, oh, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too.
So before that moment, did you not picture yourself in those kinds of positions?
So honestly, I did, even before seeing them. I think it's that my parents' confidence and the injection of confidence in me, but it became real once I started seeing them. It was like
it materialized in front of your eyes.
Exactly.
I think that's very interesting. And I'm comparing a little bit our journeys, because you moved here when you were 2. Mm-hmm. Of course, you don't have recollection of Colombia before moving here. I'm sure you've visited. I'm sure you're, very in tune with the culture. I grew up in Colombia, so I never really grew up with this sense of I'm Latina. I was Colombian, but that was just a given, so I didn't think twice about that. And I went to an all-girls school. I grew up with my mom. And so I never had those self-limiting beliefs of I can't do this because I'm Latina or I'm a woman, because I saw my mom do everything. So in my head, always growing up, I can do anything. So it's very interesting to hear people say something because I'm Latino, this. And I'm what does that have to do with anything? Right. Without saying but do you know where I'm coming 100%.
From? 100%. That's very Colombian too, by the way. Yeah, and that's very...
that confidence.
That specifically female Colombians. I can do anything. I mean, yo puedo hacer lo que yo quiera,
Because me da la gana.
La que me la gana. And so I love that. And I think that's awesome. But, when you're raised around... Let me say it this way. When you're around people that don't look like you, and don't speak your same language, now you're the outlier. You're weird.
Absolutely.
You're weird.
Yeah.
Why are you bringing sancocho to 8th grade lunch?
I didn't think I would do that in Colombia either.
Well, I was super Colombian, and I brought sancocho to my 8th grade lunch table, and they're like, ew. And then I had the audacity to pull out the sancocho, warm it up in the school microwave, and then I'm already getting judged. And then I decide to do the most Colombian thing ever, which is to pull out a banana to eat the sancocho. And these kids were making fun of me. And I was like, why am I getting bullied? I do this at home. This is normal.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think that's a very good point of the power of being surrounded by people that do things like you and look like you. And so it just normalizes whatever you're doing. And so you don't have to write out this whole essay to explain who you are. You can just be who you are. But you had to begin by explaining to people why Colombians drink soup while they eat a banana.
Exactly. That's a really hard conversation to have.
Absolutely.
That's a difficult conversation.
They were not ready for that in 8th grade.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So tell me about your immigration story. Where is your family from in Colombia?
My dad was born in Bogota, but his family actually is del campo, del área como del Huila y del Tolima. And my mom is from Manizales.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know I'm from there?
I think you are as well, right? Yeah, de Fontibón. So she was born in Manizales, but she, I think at a very young age, moved to Bogota, that my parents met. My dad started school, él estudió arquitectura in Colombia, and my mom estudiaba finanzas. And when they met, they actually, today is October 22nd, for example. They met, and then a month later, they got married. A month later.
That's so crazy.
It's insane. And they tell that story, and they're like, by the way, we don't recommend this. Like, we don't
They're
want...
still married?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's even more impressive.
This year is 30 years. I know. So, yeah, they're like, yo, Nick, don't do that. Like, we want you
know
to...
what we did? Don't do that.
Yeah, whatever we did, and clearly it worked 30 years later, don't do that. But they were very, transparent with each other. The story that they share, they met, and they were like, yeah, you're kind of cool. I'm kind of cool. Are you this person, or are you putting up like a facade? And my mom was like, nah, this is who I am. Is this who you are? And my dad was like, yeah. Well, then, hacémonos. Let's get married. And so 2 years later, I came along. And then our personal financial situation and both my parents' careers, sort of kind of, with the economy at the time, recovering from toda la violencia Pablo Escobar. There was a lot of influence in the economy at that time in both banking and architecture, que ellos decidieron venir a Estados Unidos. My dad actually came first. He scouted everything. He was like, okay, New Jersey is good. Everything is good here. And then he was here for about 6 months. And there's a really particular story that I love telling, and it's actually, my dad had everything set up. A car, an apartment, everything for my mom and myself to come to Colombia. Because my mom and my dad had lost their job.
Oh, they had lost their job. So
Correct.
This was just like their plan B.
Correct.
Okay.
So plan A was actually never to come to Colombia. To the United States. They actually wanted to always stay in Colombia. But when they lost their jobs and they had heard, America, the opportunities, etc., my dad was like, I'll go, I'll scope it out, and I'll see if it's true or not. And it was obviously true. And, he did everything he needed to do. And 6 months, about a week, so it's like 6 months and a week, my dad picks up a phone, which at the time was like it's just teléfonos.
The cord
yeah,
phone.
yeah. It was like a booth, right? So he's calling in a booth, and he's like, "Hey, he is gonna have one of the most difficult conversations ever with my mom, because my mom tells him, I just got offered a job
In Colombia?
in Colombia that actually pays me double than what I was making before. And this person is a good friend of mine. They said that they can get you a job as well. So everything that you've done for the last 6 months is cool, but would you consider coming back to Colombia?" And my dad was like, well, I think America has a better opportunity for us, for Nico, for myself at the time. And so my dad tells the story, and he's like, there was like this eternal pause on the phone, like 20 seconds, but it felt like forever. My mom just goes, where do you think there's a better opportunity for our kids? And my dad was like, 100% in America. So my mom was like, okay.
Do you think he still stands by that answer today?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. So that conversation happened in 1999. So 26 years later, I think we're doing all right. Yeah. So I think he made the right decision. And I think about, I don't know, if I was in his shoes, I'm not sure if I would have made this right decision, the same decision. I don't know.
Right.
They were young and they didn't know what they didn't know. They were making a huge, huge decision. No English, no money, no connections, nothing. Just 6 months of data of like, New Jersey's like kind of good. Let's just figure this out together. So
that is one thing that always amazes me of immigrants. And I want to say Latino immigrants because that's a community that I know, is this we're going to figure it out type of mentality that it's awesome. But sometimes it's like, maybe let's do a little more research, I mean, at least your dad came and scoped it out.
Yeah.
But I've heard of stories of people was like, we sold our house, we bought tickets, we got here. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, I can really only speak for Colombian culture, but I feel like Colombian immigrants have that specifically. I think Latino immigrants in general have this resilience. Colombians not only have resilience, but they have this optimism. Mm-hmm. Even if things go wrong, que cosa, and then we'll laugh about it and keep going.
Delusion, that's what we call delusion.
Yeah, you could call it delusion, I call it optimism, but...
No, sometimes you need a little bit of that. When was the first time that you began to experience the challenges? You became aware, like consciously aware of the challenges of being an immigrant? Because you were 2 when you moved here. So like you didn't know you lived in Colombia. You didn't know you moved to the United States, To be
very honest, I was very fortunate. I didn't really feel it growing up because I had my parents. We never, I always had food. I always had clothes. I think I started to realize we're immigrants probably in high school.
Why?
Because that's when I started to see. So growing up, my parents made the decision to move to a more affluent neighborhood. So I grew up with primarily Caucasian white people. So that had its pros and cons because I was able to learn English, learn it well, but I also thought I was white. Like I grew up watching baseball.
It's like you look at you, you're like,
yeah, like I'm good. And I had, my name's Nicolas. Nick, it's a very,
it's very Italian.
Very Italian, or it fit in. I grew up with a lot of Italians as well. High school, I think, was it for me because at the time I hadn't really gone to school with other Latinos. And in high school, I started to see a lot more Latinos and all flavors. Centroamericano, Suramericano, Colombiano, unos españoles. So people from Spain, South America, Central America. And you start to see these different flavors and listen to their stories, their upbringing. And I'm like, oh, well, these people can relate, And then I realized, like, and that's why I mentioned Colombian optimism, because they sort of took their immigration story as suffering and sort of as this trauma.
Is that a wrong approach?
I'm fortunate. So if I were to be asked, how was your immigration experience? I've gone through tough times as an immigrant. The way that I would see it is, this is objectively what happened to me, and I have two choices. I can look at it as, this is a terrible thing, America is the worst, and this woe is to me, pobrecito. But also, I think, and Colombians have this, is like, que cosa, this happened, but now I'm going to become better from it. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to pivot whatever I need to do to become better from it. So I understand, and I have met a lot of immigrant stories that I think if you open up a textbook and look up the definition of trauma, that's trauma. And even then, they're smiling.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely somewhere in the middle.
Are you? Okay.
I'm somewhere in the middle, and that's why I asked. But I think it's very awesome that you have that kind of approach, because I know you have gone through hard times, and I actually want to ask you about that if you're comfortable.
Let's do it.
You mentioned that you were a DACA recipient, which I was not expecting. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? When did you know that this was your path?
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up normal. I'm good, and so growing up...
In your eyes, were you American?
It's so funny you asked that. So in my eyes, I was always Colombian because my parents didn't let me speak English at home. Aquí en esta casa solo hablamos español. So when they watch this, they're going to laugh. But, everywhere else I spoke English. And again, I spoke English with people that spoke English really well. So I learned it. And again, it was until high school when all my friends are getting their driver's license. And I had that conversation. Very difficult conversation with my parents. And I was like, so am I going to be able to drive? And I'm 16 at the time. And they're like, that's when it sat, like that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh, got it.
This is where the paths begin to divide.
Again, I am extremely blessed that the same year in which I'm having that difficult conversation, at the time, President Obama passes the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program in 2014, passes it. I apply 6 months later and I get approved. And then I have a driver's license and I am literally like everyone else. That started sort of this whole, it was still a different path, but I had a lifeline.
Is that how it felt? Like, perhaps some pressure was relieved, but it is a 2-year, for people that don't know, the Deferred Earlier Childhood Arrival, which is DACA. There's a lot of rules which you have to abide by. And if you look at them, honestly, like DACA people are the best of the best citizens. You cannot have a criminal record. You cannot have anything related to like, you know, DUIs and all of that. And obviously, like you don't want drivers with DUIs. But what I'm getting at is that if you have DACA, you are probably like the best citizens that we have. And the fact that it's such a struggle to accept them as just citizens is ridiculous. Like, this is as best as it gets and we can't do anything for them. What I was trying to say was, were you feeling that pressure of every 2 years I'm going to have to renew this? Like, how did you approach your life in that way? Because I would have a certain kind of uncertainty that I would be living under.
Yeah, so currently, yes, we live under that uncertainty every single day, especially with the current administration.
Right.
It could end tomorrow. Everything that I have would be in question. So that's very tough. And I think this is probably where my optimism comes from is I got a side note. I have a master's degree in data science and statistics. So I think a lot in probability. So what is the probability of this program ending? Well, with this new administration and the previous one, I mean, the one before, so Trump's first presidency, it was very, very likely. And it was threatened and it had gone through all of these things. And when I look at it from a probability perspective, I also have zero control over that situation. Zero. Because I have zero control over it, me stressing over that does nothing. What I do have control over, I will 100% do everything that I can to make the case, as you were saying, be an exemplary citizen, quote unquote, the best of the best, and show that we are here and we are here to stay. And one of the things that I personally am very I strongly believe is that the message that I share with a lot of students that I mentor is your status, your past, your immigration story does not define you. Because if I let my immigration story define me, I'd still, God knows where I would be. Right? But I was given an opportunity. I was quite literally given a lifeline. And I was like, I got to take advantage. Esto hay que aprovecharlo. And I have been doing that ever since 2014.
So you can't leave the country? So you've never been to Colombia? Oh my God. That breaks my heart so much. So how do you get through those moments?
It's tough. I'm not going to lie.
Have your parents been back?
So their process got figured out before mine. So they, you know, their status is good. My sister was born here, so they're, you know.
So you're the only one?
So I am the only one in my family we're in Colombia in the saying con este gallo. I'm the only one with this issue. Some days it's tough. There's this, I mean, you've probably have been told this or heard about this, but there's definitely a identity crisis or identity conflict in immigrants. Is like, there are times where I'm way too Colombian for some friend groups. And then some friend groups like, you're so American. And on paper, the legal term is I'm an alien. I'm not even from here. So it's like, okay, but I have this really cool blend of both worlds. When when that sounds like I'm getting up and I'm screaming my heart out for the national anthem for Colombia. And personally, just my experience with the country, I will stand and I'll respect the American national anthem as well. But again, my life has been predicated on capitalizing on the opportunities that I've been given and controlling the things that I can control. The things that I can't control, I just sort of think these things will pass and one day.
Having the status that you have, what makes you want to be a public speaker and be such a forward-facing person, if that's to say?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'm going to give you the answer you probably think I'm going to say, but also there's another answer. Obviously, it's to be a voice for not just immigrants, for first-generation college students, for DACA recipients, and for the Latino community in general. Just being a voice that is very, very loud and very clear in where we stand, why we're here, and what we want to do, which is to obviously improve this country, and we're here to stay, to propagate that message. Immigrants are not here to take your job. We're just here to do the jobs you don't want to do. And we are 100% qualified in the jobs that we are obtaining and getting. The second reason, though, it's a little bit of more of an underlier for me personally, is actually I grew up extremely shy and anxious.
That's hard to believe.
It's really hard to believe, right? But you can ask my parents, like growing up, I think the whole newness of being an immigrant and not knowing how to navigate, medical documents, legal documents, a rent contract, a lot of that anxiety, I think, got passed to me. So growing up, I was super anxious. And I never, like 5-year-old Nick would never have ever wanted to give a TED Talk. Never. Like get up on a stage, no shot. Do a podcast like that, one-on-one, no way. So I do it because the 5-year-old me would see me now and be like, dude, I want to be like him.
Wow, that's really sweet. Now that you're talking about that anxiety being passed on to you, I want us to explore a little bit the whole idea of being the eldest child of immigrant parents. And I'm particularly curious about this because I'm the second child. And I have seen on social media a lot of content about being the eldest daughter and this and that. And it's a conversation I haven't had with my sister yet.
You haven't had that difficult conversation yet?
No. But yeah, I want to understand because, of course, that's, in my eyes, I'm like, is that really a thing? Is that such a second child thing to say?
No, it is. It is a very younger sibling thing to say. It is very true. Being the oldest child, whether you're male or female, of immigrant parents is a huge responsibility. And I'll explain why. I think the first thing is when I put myself in my parents' shoes. Like I said, it's a new country, new language, new currency, new laws. Like driving in Bogota is not the same as driving in Newark, New Jersey, right? So they're learning all this. And then on top of that, they're raising a child. And the child is now like part of the team. So I kind of compare like a business. Like we're running a business. I'm now an employee. I gotta clock in, I gotta put in hours, overtime. So I gotta do all this stuff. And my parents were young, so they were figuring out life all of at the same time. So I'm extremely blessed because my parents, they would observe, and then when they would see something and observe like, this is not a great neighborhood, let's get out of here. Or, this friend group that Nick has isn't great, let's take him and make sure he's with a different friend group. He's spending too much time on video games, let's take that away and do something else. So they were very intentional in raising me, but that came with, rough edges and scuffs and them just figuring life out. And then again, my effort in having to contribute to, translating and understanding, and, they were never vocal and like, oh man, like what are we going to do?
Right.
But those feelings in that environment, that propagates and that gets absorbed by the people in that environment.
And it's inevitable to do some expedited growing up, even just hearing that or just being part of that conversation, just what we are exposed to. You think that sometimes you think kids are not listening or are not understanding, but kids pick up everything. You say something today and like tomorrow there's talking about it, you're like, oh, you were paying attention. So kids are very receptive.
Big time. So to answer your question, once I'm 5 years older than my sister. So once she came into the picture, I have a 5-year head start. I know how the system works.
You're at the management level.
I'm a senior manager.
She's an intern.
She's an intern. So I'm showing her the ropes,
This is where we put our toys. This is where
Exactly. I'm like, this is bedtime. This is the TV. And so once we establish that relationship, I would say I wouldn't go as far to say the parenting fell on me, but I, was able, since I'm 5 years older, sort of contribute to teaching her things. And so with that, she had it way easier in terms of just everything, and everything was figured out. My parents also know the system. So yes, you should call your sister, thank her for her work.
I will.
Yeah, she's been through a lot.
And if you add another layer of complexity, that not only are you the child of immigrants, you are an immigrant yourself. So I've heard this term, somebody told me about this, called the 1.5 generation. Because, and I feel this, growing up, sometimes my friends' parents would be talking about something, or just, and not maybe talking, but like the general feelings about something. And I always tell people, like, technically I am a Gen Z.
Okay. But
I'm like on the older side. But I sometimes fall a lot under the behavior of millennials. Sometimes.
You're a zillennial.
Because, is that what it's called?
I don't know. I've heard no.
I think that's our parents.
Okay.
Because, like, I lived in Latin America. And so the culture that got there was delayed, So that's why I'm like, sometimes I would get along more with my friends' parents than my friends themselves.
Than the actual friends, really?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, this is very interesting. Like, I can relate more to them in certain things, of course.
That's interesting.
I don't know if that was something that happened to you, but again, you're like part of the 0.5 generation, but you grew up here, so.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think growing up, because we were immigrants and we would obviously gravitate towards spending time with other immigrants, something similar really happened with us. Like, if they didn't have kids, I would talk to the parents, and then they would tell me their experience in Colombia and the things that they would do and what they're doing now. But that's super interesting. I had never really thought about that.
About what specifically?
Oh, like about the culture taking a little while to get here, to get to Colombia, the one that was here. So I'm sure you came here and you're like, oh, this is new. And then now,
so new.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the whole getting along with the parents is like, you guys are sort of maybe in the same wavelength, and the kids are obviously maybe more Americanized. And
yes, exactly. And you know what's interesting? Like, because of technology, now it doesn't take us long for the culture to trickle down. It's more instantaneous. So sometimes when I go and visit my cousins and I try to be, the cool older cousin, teach them something they might not know, they're like, yeah, what about it? I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, you have iPhones now. Okay.
Got it.
I know you have mentioned already how grateful you feel about what your parents did and how much grace you give them for figuring out things while having a kid. What do you think about the sacrifices and maybe the dreams that they might have left behind? Like, let's say, for example, your mom with the job in, I'm sure, architecture that she could have had over there. And I don't know if she was able to perhaps follow those footsteps here if they learn English. Like, what do you think about those sacrifices that they made?
This is a really difficult conversation or topic for me, because I think about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the sacrifices my parents have made for me. And I think a lot. I think about this often. I don't know if I would have done the same. So my mom was working in finance. My dad was in architecture.
Oh, sorry, I got that.
Nah, it's all good. No worries. So they had jobs like starting off prestigious careers. My mom was young and she was working in finance. And she, from finance, comes to America and starts to clean houses. And from just an ego perspective.
Absolutely.
So think about it this way. You're working in an office with, you're managing portfolios of hundreds of thousands, some of them even millions of dollars at the time. To coming to America and you're given like a broom and a mop and it's like, go. That's tough on anybody's ego.
Absolutely.
Right? Especially a Colombian woman, It's from Manizales. Like, that is so tough. Then you go a step further, in my experience, my mom and my dad have a difficult conversation and they're like, I think only one of us should work. Somebody has to raise Nico. And my mom makes a decision and she decides to stay at home. And that is something that I can never repay her for, because she stayed at home and through my formative years spent all her time with me, teaching me, educating me, disciplining me, of course.
A lot of that.
And investing in me and pouring in me. Like I said, I could never repay that sacrifice because not a lot of people are willing to do that. So I joke now with my mom, I'm like, Mommy, you invested in Amazon. like you invested in a blue chip stock. Y eso está subiendo. Eso da ganancias.
It only took 28 years.
It only took 28 years, but you're
And what does your mom say to that?
Oh, she laughs every time. And she's, her and I have a really good relationship. And there's probably something that if there's somebody listening and they have siblings and it's, a Latino daughter and a Latino son, typically the Latino son gets a lot of love from the mom, right? So my mom is like that. Ella me consiente, papito, ¿qué quiere? ¿Quiere chocolatico?
El consentido.
Oh, sí. Yo soy re consentido y yo me dejo. I'm never going to say no to that, obviously.
He's spoiled.
I'm super spoiled. Super spoiled.
Does your sister get the same amount
No.
of love?
Absolutely not.
That is also...
we talk about that. That's a difficult conversation.
I only have one other sister.
Oh, dude.
So, it's 2 girls, So none of that was happening in my household.
Okay, good.
But my grandma is the same way to my uncle to this day, you know, and that is very machista in a way. We don't have to get into it.
Yeah. Listen, she invested in the stock, right? So it's just the fruits of her labor are now growing. My dad too. My dad, he, again, from working in architecture, proceeds to then work multiple part-time jobs, working, flipping burgers, delivering newspaper, things that are very outside of whatever he was dreaming of. But something that my dad also always said, he's he would say, telling the story to me now that I'm older, is esto lo que hay que hacer ahorita. This is what we need to do right now. Pero yo no me voy a quedar acá. I'm not going to stay here. And I've used that a lot in my life as well. So again, he was flipping burgers from being in an office. That's really demoralizing to anybody. Again.
Absolutely. I think that's that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And I'm so glad that we're doing this in English. Because earlier you said, immigrants are not coming here to take your jobs. They're coming here to do the jobs that you don't want to do. And that's true. And part of something that I'm very passionate about is not staying there. It's like, yeah, immigrants can come and do the jobs you don't want to do. But my hope for like Latino immigrants is that we don't stay there. Is that we come. It's like, you don't know the next Latino man that you see flipping a burger. You don't know if he, like, what he could do for a building, because your dad was an architect. It's like you have no idea the talent and the intellect inside of this person who right now is flipping burgers. And I think that's what breaks my heart about our community, that we get so undermined as like the gardeners, the people cleaning floors, which is all, again, like decent jobs to have, and you're providing for your family. But you have the talent, the skill, and the education. My hope for them is for us to find a way for them to exploit that here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same exact way. It's sometimes it's frustrating to see that. And I've met a lot of people with prestigious careers in their countries, doctors, lawyers, engineers, and then they come here because the credentials aren't that easy to transfer. They have to take a lot of blue collar jobs, like you said, like gardening, janitors, restaurant jobs. I would say though, and I really admire the people that get out of that. And I agree. I think the messaging for immigrants that maybe in this present moment have to be in a blue collar job, they have to work an hourly salary, or work by the hour, that's what you just need to do right now. But that this is not your final destination. You can work yourself out of this because you're an immigrant, you're resilient. And that's something that, listen, I'm a testament to that. My family is a testament to that. And we look back and would never disrespect somebody that has those jobs. Like you said, it's very honorable. But I would encourage people to always look towards the next big thing.
Absolutely. And I also just have to say that it sounds like your family has like some really good and strong mantras.
Oh, big time. We're really big into mantras, clearly.
I know, I love it. There's some that I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna replay this a few times.
Yeah.
Being a high achieving Latino, the higher you climb in the corporate ladder, the less Hispanics and Latinos you see in a room. And I see the same thing. And I think it reflects in like all phases of your life, friendships and all of that. It's like you see less people that look like you interact with less people that look like you. So it really is like a domino effect. Now that you're in these leadership positions and you're a mentor to younger kids, what would you say to them about that? And what's also some advice that you wish you had heard when you were younger?
Yeah, I love that question. And this is something that I'm personally really passionate about. So for me, back to when I was in college and I was in this program, before that program, I would have never imagined to be in the position that I'm in now, both in a leadership director position, leadership on a board, public speaking, and having a voice. I would have never, until I joined that program, and that program exposed me to other Latinos that were also VPs and directors, and even some CEOs are in the C-suite. I was like, wow, these people are in the rooms that decisions are being made. If they can do it, so can I. And I remember, I'll never forget, one of the sessions we had, there was this, I just remember the governor at the time was Chris Christie. Then there was the lieutenant governor, and then there was the person under them. He was Latino. And he was giving a speech, and the ending of his speech stuck with me forever. He said, it's super important for us to reach for the stars and become, these people in these high achieving roles. But more than anything, it's actually more important for us to reach and rise. Reach and then rise. So the reaching was like, whoever you see that needs a pull to be able to bring them up, reach out for them, but never stop rising. So it's like this continuing motion, and you're rising, but you want to bring your people with you, because that's what other communities are doing. They also rise, but you see them be successful because they're very close knitted in the community. And so reach and rise was something that stuck with me. And then the second thing he said was, being Hispanic is actually a responsibility. So when he said that, I'm like,
in what way? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it really stuck with me. He said it like that. He's like, being Hispanic is a privilege, and we all agreed, everyone clapped, but it's also a responsibility. And what he meant by that was, you or me or myself may actually be the only Latino that certain people interact with.
That's crazy to think about.
It's crazy to think about, maybe in New Jersey, but I personally experienced that. Living in Kentucky, living in Indiana, living in like other states where I had to work. And I was quite literally the first Latino that these people ever met.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But now, hopefully, they walked away with a very positive impression of the Latino people. They're like, Fox News, they're telling me that these people are coming in caravans and taking all of our jobs. But Nick, Valentina, yeah, they're cool. I actually really like that. I like them, right? So it's a responsibility in the sense, jokes aside, it's a responsibility because you are going to plant the seed of the impression on other people, and we need to make sure that it's a positive seed.
Absolutely. I think that goes with everything. Yeah, that goes with everything. Like, you shouldn't respect somebody because they're a CEO. You should respect somebody because they're a person.
Exactly.
I think that's something that our culture does very well for the most part. I would say.
for the most part, we have sometimes you tell me, I think in Colombia, from what I've heard, it's a lot more classista. So people don't mingle among classes as much as here.
Yes, I would agree with that. That's something that I have a hard time with, even like explaining to other people, like explaining the concept of una grilla. That's the first thing that comes to mind, because really? I remember one time I was trying to explain it to a friend, and they were just kind of like, what the hell? You sound like a horrible person, And I was like, no, but if you were Colombian, you would get it. Right. And I'm not going to go ahead and explain it. If you get it, you get it. But I feel like that's some part of like my Colombian identity that I have a hard time rationalizing and understanding it outside of that context, to be honest. But I understand what you're saying. Like, I think we can be very respectful and also very classist. I think those two things are true.
We get the best of both worlds, you think?
Sure. Something else that we had talked previously about that I know that is very important for you is the idea of people losing their critical thinking skills.
As I mentioned, I have a master's degree in data science and statistics, and my undergrad is in mechanical engineering. Growing up, I was actually really bad at math. Very bad. Terrible at math. Awful in high school. And then I had to take a summer class to place for the math class in college. And I did not do well in math in college. But there was a point in college where I was like, okay, I had to decide, I'm not really here to walk away with learning the formulas. I'm actually walking away with a degree that's going to prove to everybody I know how to think and I know how to learn. And so engineering is just that. It's understanding a problem and then once you understand it, it's super easy to solve. I think 90% of people's problems is they actually don't understand the problem. Once you understand your problems, it's very easy. Usually the solutions are very simple. So usually.
That is such a, like, I can tell you work with machines.
Oh, you can tell there's the nerdiness like oozing out.
No, it's just such a like black and white, like 0 or 1 type of thinking.
It's so, it's
hey, I say that having an engineering degree.
Oh, there you go. So you get it. And listen, for the record, I do consider like feelings and emotions,
okay,
right? Like I'm not a robot, like I definitely see that there's layers to it. but honestly, it's,
however, he can solve 90% of your problems.
However, I can solve your problems if you just are easily define it. To answer your question though, something I'm really passionate about is I think that skill is being lost by our generation, my generation, and then the generations to come, is the ability to think through problems critically. So, I work and mentor a lot of college students. And a question that I get often is, Nick, what if I don't get a job? Or what if I don't pass my class? What if I don't get an internship? It's a very doomsday question. And a lot of them are coming from immigrants that they're not coming from a spoiled place. They're coming from the same place as me. They don't have family. They're in corporate. They're the first generation, first people in their family going to college. So they're very much in the same position.
I mean, the stakes are very high for them.
Very high. So they're approaching it in a doomsday way. And I'm like, and at times, in instances, they haven't gotten the internship. They don't get the job. They fail the class. And for them, that's catastrophic. And I've been there. I failed the class. I've been rejected both by, internships and job offers. Where the ability to think critically comes and where that saves the day is to be able to sit down and say, okay, what happened? Sounds super simple, right? But it's what happened. Okay, I failed the exam or I failed the course. And if I were to pull up the curriculum or if I were to pull up my grades, where are the gaps that I missed and that I failed to meet the criteria to pass the class? And where I think this generation is falling, where they're falling short, is that the emotions surpass the rationale. So it's like they take those emotions, which are super important, by the way. Please put that on the record. Emotions are really important, okay? I believe emotions.
He's emotionally intelligent,
I'm
guys.
emotionally intelligent, I promise. The emotions are really important. The problem is that they begin to identify and attach their identity with the outcome. And now they start to say things, I'm stupid. Yo no sirvo para nada. I'm not worth going to school. The system is against me. I'm a girl. I'm an immigrant. I'm an immigrant girl. It's like all these things. And it's like those things.
You make it too personal.
Too personal. Those things are still true. Yes, they are true. And your emotions are valid. However, because they lack the ability to think critically, they lack the ability to put those emotions and that identity crisis to the side and say, honestly, you didn't prepare your elevator pitch enough. You didn't go enough to office hours. You didn't prepare to the highest degree for that job interview. And if you were able to have that difficult conversation with yourself, honestly, you'd be able to sit down and say, yeah, you're right.
It's so interesting that this topic is coming from the people that you're mentoring. And I have so much compassion for anybody in high school right now because I was also that kid. I was like, oh my God, like, what if I fail a class in college? Well, I was in high school. I was worried about failing class. You know what I mean? Anxiety just completely took over me.
Right.
And there's when you're applying to all these colleges, there's this narrative don't know where it comes from, that like your college is gonna make or break what you do for the rest of your life. You know, like I went to a public college, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I'm doing just fine.
Yeah.
And I moved across state lines. Like all my connections that existed somewhere else, gone when I moved somewhere else. And that's something that I was actually thinking about today. I was like, damn, like maybe I should have planned better for that. But there's just, you cannot plan your way out of life. You know, and so what you're bringing up about the critical thinking, that is so important. Yes, because the one thing that is guaranteed in life is unexpected circumstances and challenges, and also like small successes too. I can't guarantee big successes, you know? Yeah. So I couldn't agree more about the importance of having those critical skills and having hard conversations with yourself. Yeah,
it's huge. And the last thing I'll say about that is it's really important for this generation to be able to just chill. Like
take a breath.
Just take a breath. And, you know, it goes against everything that I think specifically here in America and specifically here in the Northeast United States, we are always on the go. Always. You know, are you grinding? Are you starting a startup? Do you work at a startup?
Are you 25? Are you a millionaire yet?
Are you a millionaire? Yeah. Like, do you have kids? And do you have a 401k? And all these things.
And have you traveled the entire world before you're 30?
Before you're 30. And like, you know, it's all of these things. And it's like, if you literally just drove 1 hour west to Pennsylvania, people don't think like that there. Or 1 hour south, maybe, I don't know, to Delaware. People are not thinking that much. Does it have its pros? Absolutely. And I'm the first one. I barely sleep. These bags are not designer. Like, I'm grinding. I'm putting a lot of hours in a lot of places. So
maybe you should take your own advice.
Maybe I should. Maybe this is a difficult conversation. I need to.
There you go. That's your next conversation.
Yeah, literally.
To have with yourself.
Yeah. But my thing is when you learn how to just stop, and this is actually something I'm learning. So I'm actually putting this into practice, and it's setting boundaries and learning to, okay, I've worked up until this point, stop, I'm going to work and invest on myself. And if people learn to do that and learn to acquire the skill of having difficult conversations, but also thinking critically, it will pay exponentially in the future.
I love that. Thank you so much. I want to ask you a few series of fire questions. These are like quick questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Cool, let's do it. I'm excited.
So, ¿qué prefieres? ¿Pan de bono o empanada?
Empanada.
¿Vallenato o cumbia?
Vallenato.
¿Cuál es tu dicho colombiano favorito?
Ay, María, hombre.
Si pudieras viajar... I'm sorry.
No, just go ahead, just ask.
Si pudieras viajar a cualquier lugar en Colombia, ¿cuál sería?
Después de, obviamente, Bogotá, donde nací, quiero ir a San Andrés.
A closing tradition that we have is that me, myself, and I, if you could give advice to your younger self, it's typically advice to make your immigration journey easier. What would that be?
I would tell myself two things. I would say, do it scared and progress over perfect. Do it scared because it is super scary to be an immigrant in this country, especially now. But it's also the best time to be an immigrant in this country because we're in the spotlight. Everyone's talking about immigrants. Everyone's talking about immigration. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone is talking about immigrants and immigrants in this country. What better time to be an immigrant in this country to talk about the things that we're doing? So doing it scared, that's what doing it scared means to me. And progress over perfect is something that I would tell my younger self. Being the nerd that I am, I look for and the engineer, for things to be perfect before posting something, before speaking. Oh no, I'm not going to raise my hand in this meeting or in this class because I'm going to sound stupid. No. Progress for me, and when I adopted that personally, both in my immigrant journey, in my professional journey, in my personal journey, I have grown so much by just saying, I'm going to be 1% better than I was last week or yesterday by just little progress. And I think if more immigrants adopted that mindset, we're already a huge powerhouse in this country, but if we focus on progress over perfection, I think we would be making more positive impact.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. This was amazing, by the way. I had so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in today. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube at doce.podcast. That's DOCE.podcast. Leave us a review on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. This was Doce, the podcast for immigrants by immigrants.